Today's episode of Variant is brought to you by Domain.com.
Today on Variant, it's Ultron versus Brainiac. Welcome to Variant, where we love comics more than our first Variant branded t-shirt. I'm your host, Arris, and yes, you did hear me correctly, Variant finally has a design that can be worn on your person. We call it the villain lineup, for obvious reasons. This awesome design was done by Adam Rabelais. His work is always fantastic, which you can check out more of his stuff right here. The shirt will be available for purchase at triunestore.com starting this Friday, November 28th, which is Black Friday. We also have a ton of great sales going on for Black Friday for everything on our store, so make sure you check out more info on that right here. As for today's episode, for most of us comic book fans, Avengers Age of Ultron is the movie we are looking forward to most next summer, especially after we just got that awesome trailer a few weeks back. So I figured while we're waiting for summer to come, I'd put Ultron up against another great villain, Brainiac. Before I get started, I know you guys want a History of Ultron episode, but I'm going to wait a little closer to the movie's actual release date because that just makes sense. But since every Versus episode I give a brief rundown of the character's origins anyway, this episode should hold you over till then. So let's start with Ultron. Ultron first appeared in Avengers 54 in 1968. He was disguised for the majority of the issue as the Crimson Cowl, with his face only revealed on the last page of the issue and no name was given for the character. The character leads the Masters of Evil against the Avengers, having hypnotized Ed Jarvis into working for him. In the following issue, Avengers issue 55, the character is identified as Ultron 5. Although his origin was still unknown at that point, in Avengers issue 58, a flashback sequence revealed that Ultron is the creator of Vision, who he tries to use as a weapon to destroy the Avengers. But Vision turned on Ultron and destroyed him with the help of the Avengers. Further flashbacks reveal that Ultron is the creation of Hank Pym and based on Pym's brain patterns. The robot gradually developed its own intelligence and rebelled, and almost immediately develops an irrational hatred for his father, Hank. Rebuilding itself, learning how to turn itself on, and upgrading 5 times, Ultron then hypnotizes Pym and brainwashes him into forgetting that the robot ever existed. Now that's just a brief rundown of Ultron's origin, but let's talk about Brainiac. Brainiac first appeared in Action Comics issue 242 in 1958. He is definitely one of Superman's most known villains as well as one of his oldest. Now before I get into his origin, I do want to say as a result of various time-altering storylines in the DC universe, there have been several incarnations of Brainiac. So for now, I'm just going to give you his original origin, and then in a History of Brainiac episode, I'll go into greater detail. Brainiac is an alien from the planet Calloo. Upon his arrival to Earth, Brainiac began shrinking various cities, including Metropolis. It was up to Superman to save the day, but when Superman confronted Brainiac, he discovered that Brainiac had an ultra force field protecting him, which made him impervious to all of Superman's attacks. Superman was able to defeat Brainiac, but only thanks to the Kryptonians of Kandor sacrificing themselves for Superman to save the day. As you guys may have noticed from the pictures I just showed, Brainiac was once a green-skinned Martian-looking guy who looked like he stole a pink bathing suit from the set of Baywatch. Brainiac's origin was later retconned in Superman issue 167, and then again in Action Comics 545 and 546 in 1983. So obviously Brainiac has gone through a crap ton of changes over the years, especially his 1983 change where he ditched his green skin entirely and was just a robot. Although I do have to say one of my favorite renditions of Brainiac is from Superman the Animated Series, where he was a computer on the planet Krypton who knew about the end of the planet but didn't want to say anything so he could save himself and be the only Kryptonian left. Anyway, now that you know how the characters came to be, it's time to talk about their powers and abilities, because after all, that's what's going to determine the winner of this fight. And since I was just talking about Brainiac, let's start with him. Much like there being many different incarnations of Brainiac's origin, the same goes for his powers, so I'm just going to give you an overview of his powers over the years. Brainiac has a 12th level intellect. For those of you who don't know, a 12th level intellect is the term used to describe some of the smartest minds in the DC universe, but putting it more plain and simple, Brainiac is widely credited as the smartest being in the entire DC universe, which that alone makes this character extremely deadly. Because as we all know, it's not always your strength that makes you a strong villain, but I'd have to say it's more so your intelligence. His superior intelligence gives him enhanced calculation abilities, enhanced memory, and advanced understanding of mechanical engineering, bioengineering, physics, and other theoretical and applied sciences, as well as an extensive knowledge of various alien technologies, and the list goes on. The character has created devices such as a force field belt and shrinking ray capable of reducing cities. Brainiac's advanced mental powers have shown him capable of possessing others, absorbing information from other beings, transferring his consciousness, creating and manipulating computer systems, replicating multiple versions of himself, and exerting powers to traverse or control space and time. John Byrne's reimagining of the character possessed telepathy and telekinesis. Brainiac has also been shown to take on Superman and evenly match him in strength from time to time. Moving along, we have Ultron. The visual appearance and powers of the character have differed over the years, but common powers include superhuman levels of strength, speed, stamina, durability, and reflexes. Even flight at subsonic speeds and various offensive weapons such as concussive blasts of energy fired from its optical sensors or hands. And an encephalo ray, which places victims into a death-like coma. The latter ray also allows Ultron to mesmerize and mind control victims, or implant subliminal hypnotic commands within their minds to enact at a later time. Ultron has a genius intellect and capacity for creative intelligence and self-repair, and the ability to process information and make calculations with superhuman speed and accuracy. The character is also an expert roboticist and strategist. Ultron's outer armor is usually composed primarily of adamantium, which is almost always completely impervious to damage. I mean, it is the same material as Wolverine's claws. Most Ultron units are powered by a small internal nuclear furnace and incorporate a program transmitter, and can beam part or all of Ultron's memory/personality system into other computer systems or duplicate robotic bodies. Ultron could also control other machines remotely. Now, that was just a brief rundown of both characters' powers and abilities. Both characters have way more powers, but that's enough to give you guys an idea of their strengths. Now, with all that said, I want you guys to go to our Variant Facebook page and vote on a poll we posted there asking who would win in a fight, Ultron or Brainiac. And I'll announce who you guys decided the winner is at the end of next week's episode, as well as putting the winner in the description of that episode. But you guys always want to know who I think would win, so here are my thoughts. And I could honestly say it was extremely hard for me to pick a winner. Both characters have so many abilities that made me go, well, Ultron would do this to Brainiac, but then Brainiac would counter with this because X, Y, and Z, and vice versa, and that went on in my brain for quite some time. Like I said, both characters are extremely physically strong, and both are extremely smart, even though I think Brainiac is smarter, which is what initially made me think Brainiac would win, because greater intelligence always usually finds a way to win no matter what. But the one thing I kept coming back to was Ultron hacking Brainiac's tech. Even if it was unfamiliar tech, I'm sure it would only be a matter of time before Ultron would be able to do so. Especially if Ultron was able to take over Brainiac's ship, which is where most of his power comes from, that would be game over. If you don't agree with me and think Brainiac would win, that's okay. It's always fun to discuss why people think characters would and wouldn't win, as long as it's done in a mature, non-aggressive way. Disagreeing with someone is perfectly fine, but cursing someone out and talking down to them just because you don't agree isn't. Comic books are fun first and foremost, so let's keep it that way in our discussion. When you buy a domain name from domain.com, you get the power to influence and control what people find when they search for you online. No domain extension will help you tell your story like a .com or .net domain name. Domain.com is affordable, reliable, and easy to use. The guys at domain.com gave Variants an awesome offer. Get 15% off domain.com's already affordable domain names and web hosting when you use the coupon code VARIANT at checkout. So when you think domain names, think domain.com. First up for Wednesday, November 26th, we have Scarlet Spider issue 1. Anytime you have the Scarlet Spiders involved, I'm always in. So this is a miniseries that no fan of Ben Reilly, Kane, or even the Ultimate Jessica Drew is gonna wanna miss. Now we have Superior Iron Man issue 2. Tony Stark has transformed San Francisco into the prototype for his new world concept, but Matt Murdock isn't down with Tony's new vision. Here we have Deathstroke issue 2. The first issue was action-packed and left a pretty intriguing cliffhanger at the end. So all in all, this series looks promising. And finally, we have Batman Beyond Universe issue 16. I've said it before, this is hands down one of my favorite titles. If you're a fan of the DC animated universe and you're not reading this, that's a problem. So it's just sad that this title is being put on hiatus. And that will do it for today's episode of Variant. But until next week, you can like our Variant Facebook page to keep up with the show in all things comic related. You can also follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/Arris_Quinones. But speaking of my Twitter, you can look in the description below to see how you can be involved in some Variant comic conversation and possibly be on the show every week like these guys I'm about to show. But I'll see you guys next week when I talk about all things comics.
Hey Arris, I think it's pretty obvious that my favorite team is the X-Men, but they're too big, not a fair fight. So my other favorite team, the team with the most unique dynamic, has got to be Red Hood and the Outlaws.
My favorite superhero team is definitely Guardians of the Galaxy. Great show, guys. Keep up the good work.
So we were asked about our favorite superhero team. Hands down, X-Men.
Favorite superhero team's gotta be Teen Titans. They're young, inexperienced, yet they have a great storyline and really interact with the viewers.
Hey, what's up, Arris? My favorite superhero team has got to be the Avengers.
The